Let me pull up my...
let's, can we cheers real quick?
Document, yes. Cheers.
Beyond Reproach.
To Beyond Reproach. To being Beyond Reproach.
Okay. I'll let you pull up your stuff and then we should...
Oh my god, that's delicious.
Yay.
Wow. Oh no, I don't even taste the gin.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
When I was a kid at school learning the golden rule, teacher often used to say, if you don't tell a lie, there's not a reason why you can't be like Washington someday. How could Washington be a married man and never, never tell a lie?
Okay. So, welcome to Beyond Reproach.
Welcome, friends.
I'm Tux Lurzel.
I'm Stephanie Domingo.
And we're already drinking.
Sure are.
So this is called a Bird of Paradise Fizz, which is stupid fancy.
It's the cocktail of this episode.
Yes. So it's a gin-based cocktail with raspberry syrup, egg white, heavy cream, orange flower water, and lime juice. Because why the fuck not?
Yeah, it's real good. It's so creamy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let me pull up my stuff
It
here.
looks like cotton candy. I'm into... Oh no, the straw.
Yeah.
Dear God. So we're using these really good for the environment straws that are beautiful, but not super functional. I've already broken mine in half, so... That was what, 2 minutes?
Yeah. So this cocktail comes from a club, like a nightclub in Panama called the Strangers Club.
Whoa.
It was popular, I think, like sort of during and right after World War I, or World War II, I should say, because Panama was sort of strategic during the war, so there was a lot of Americans in Panama.
This is around the Canal time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all these sort of nightclubs started popping up, and there was a lot of movies about. There was a movie called Panama Hattie, and there was all these like, because Panama was sort of touristy right after the war, so all these nightclubs started popping up, and these like fancy tropical drinks became very popular there. So that's why. So I picked the Bird of Paradise Fizz because my scandal is about the Panama Canal.
Wow. Okay, I'm into it.
Should we just dive in?
I think we should.
No banter.
I mean,
there will be banter.
There will be banter. Will be had.
Yeah, that was a movie, right? A few years ago. There will be banter.
Yes, with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
He's my favorite method actor. He's so good.
That's the movie about our podcast. There will be drinking. So the Panama Canal is a man-made waterway connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through a narrow strip of land in South America.
Yes.
On what is known as the Isthmus of Panama. I don't know how to pronounce that fucking word.
What does that even mean?
I think it's just
a
like
small
this little strip of land
strip
between
of land?
two
Okay.
oceans. I guess. I could be totally
Sure,
wrong.
that sounds right.
The Panama Canal was one of the largest and most difficult engineering projects the world has ever seen, and it's now considered one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Oh.
It's about 50 miles long.
Really?
The isthmus.
It's one of the 7 wonders of the world? That
That's-
seems so lame in a way. I don't know. Like,
I mean-
it should be... I guess it's because it's so big.
It's real big. It's 50 miles long.
Oh my god! Okay, never mind.
It's all
Go on.
man-made. Originally, when they were trying to think of like the idea of a man-made passage between two oceans, the original plan was that it would be sea level.
Okay.
So they would just excavate and you would just sail across.
Oh, okay.
But that's not
yeah.
realistic because there's mountains and shit.
Oh,
so
no. Yeah, that would be super labor intensive.
yeah. Well, I mean, even what they did was super labor intensive.
Yeah, 50
but
miles
like,
of anything.
So it consists of 3 locks and dams that allow ships to travel between the port of Cristobal on the Atlantic side and the port of Balboa on the Pacific side.
That's so cool.
The original locks are 110 feet wide, and the bulk of the canal, after you go through the locks, actually sits 85 feet above sea level.
Damn. So it's like a series, like little bridges.
Yeah, like a
that-
ship would sail in.
Yeah, and then they bring up
The
the
lock
water.
would close.
Yeah.
Water would go in and raise it up, and then it would go to the next lock, and that would raise, and then it would go forward. So,
That's so weird.
how and why was the canal built?
Yes.
The why is easy.
Yeah.
Ships trying to travel between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans would need to sail thousands of miles around the dangerous southernmost tip of South America to get to the other side.
With all the Pirates of the Caribbean, you mean?
Way further down than that. The Caribbean's like between North and South America. So we're talking the very southernmost tip of South America.
Oh, fuck, yeah. That's a journey.
Yeah.
That's
Just
a
to
trek.
get from, if you wanted to sail from like New York to California, you're talking like insane journey because
And they used to do that.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So, a waterway connecting the two oceans further north obviously would make things easier, safer, faster, and more reliable. Europeans were actually, I think it was the Spanish it said, were considering the idea of a man-made canal in the 1500s, but they didn't have the technology, so it was just a pipe dream. So that's the why. The how, though, is a lot more fucked up. And complicated.
Is it scandalous?
You may say it's scandalous. One might say. So in 1850, the Colombian government gave the French permission to excavate a sea level canal, but they didn't actually break ground until 1882, 32 years later.
So the French had control of the area?
Yes, the French.
Okay.
So when they broke ground in 1882, thus began the first of many scandals surrounding the canal's construction and operation. So the French appointed Ferdinand de Lesseps as the president of the Panama Canal Company because he had successfully overseen construction of the Suez Canal in 1869.
And where is the Suez?
I think it's like Egypt or somewhere like that. Yeah.
Okay. So he's done this before.
So exactly. So they're like, "Oh, you got this. It's
Yeah.
cool." But no, it was not cool.
Oh no.
So they get to Panama, they break ground, and almost immediately they're like, "Oh shit, this isn't anything like Suez. Like, it's rocky. There's
Oh my
mountains.
God,
There's a
imagine
tropical climate. So there's
Yeah.
like malaria
Oh.
and yellow fever and poisonous snakes."
Shit.
And they're like, "Oh, why didn't anybody tell me?"
Oh my god.
So, mosquito-borne malaria claimed several thousands of workers' lives.
Holy shit.
Most of them black, most of them
course.
West Indian.
Of course, yes.
And
It's a
in
lot
no
of
time
people.
flat, the project was suffering such huge financial setbacks that the company was ordered to liquidate to pay back their investors in 1889.
So how far into construction?
It's not super clear,
Okay.
but not very far.
Not very far,
Well, I think
yeah.
what they had done, they
'Cause
built
they
a
get there.
railway. They
Okay.
built a railway the
Okay.
whole length of the canal because
they're going to need to bring in supplies.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like cart out like debris, rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
So they built the railway, and I think they started excavating, but they didn't really get very far. So in 1892, the French press caught wind of the story of like the sort of mismanaged funds and all this shit, and they dubbed it the Panama Scandals. And it is now regarded as the largest monetary corruption scandal of the 19th century. That's saying a lot.
Well, it probably happened over like decades, right?
Well, it was from 1882,
Okay.
and then it was 1892, so it was 10 years.
Oh.
10 years in. Close to $500 million francs were lost when the French government took bribes to keep quiet about the Panama Canal Company's financial troubles, because the company was issuing stocks and bonds, and they didn't want people to know that they were having trouble, because if the people knew that they were having trouble,
then
they wouldn't
buy
buy
the
stocks and
stocks
bonds.
or bonds. Yeah.
So
Ooh.
the French government took bribes
no.
to keep their mouths shut. About 800,000 French people, including 15,000 single women, lost their investments in the stocks, bonds, and founder shares. Public investment in the project totaled about 1.2 billion francs, but only about 960 million was actually invested in Panama, the rest being pocketed by financiers and politicians.
Yeah. Gotta pay the bribes.
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy.
So 510 members of the French Parliament were accused of receiving bribes from the Panama Canal Company to hide the company's financial troubles. And in the end, 104 legislators were found to have been involved in the corruption. Many defendants fled to England, and some took their own lives.
Whoa.
They even said that there were several German Jews involved in distributing the bribe money. And the French papers caught wind of this, and there were some heavily anti-Semitic papers that really ran with that story, and that led to a whole
just blaming it all on them.
But then the French people, there was this huge wave of anti-Semitism in France at the time because these French newspapers were like, that's the problem, is these Jews.
Such an easy target. Such an easy target. They knew what they were doing.
So several members of the management company, Lesseps, his son Charles, and even the engineer Gustave Eiffel, known for building the Eiffel Tower, were given long jail sentences, but these were later annulled, probably because they have money. And the government was like, here, you're fine.
So they were hired to work on the canal?
Yeah.
And they didn't do any work? They just got the
money? They did stuff, but they didn't finish, and they were, there was so much corruption that they were just like, you're going to jail. A second canal company was formed by the French in 1894 to manage the French assets in Panama and pick up where the first company left off. Because of the tropical, damp, warm climate in Panama, though, the original construction equipment was ruined during the inactive years of the scandal.
God, so they have to buy more equipment?
Yeah.
Fuck!
So some of it was okay, but a lot of it was rusty or fucked up or whatever.
Is this government sponsored at all? Or is
I think it's kind of both. Because
usually
the public was buying stocks and bonds, but the government was involved too.
Damn. Okay.
Eventually, they were just like, "Fuck it, we give up. This isn't working." There was already this whole scandal. Let's just sell off the equipment that's left and the land rights because Colombia had given them these land rights to build there.
But what was their excuse for stopping working? They just couldn't. It was too hard.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So they were like, we're going to sell off the salvageable equipment and the land rights, and they set the price at $109 million US dollars because they thought that the US was the logical choice to pick up where they left off and build this canal.
Yeah. That makes sense.
However, the United States was interested in a canal, but in 1889, they had already started construction on their own canal in Nicaragua. Construction had begun and continued for 4 years until 1893, when that company lost all of its funding because of a stock panic in the U.S.
Okay.
That company stopped building, the site kind of sat vacant, and Congress appointed 2 separate commissions in 1897 and 1899 to research the best location for a canal. Maybe Nicaragua's not the idea. Yeah. Both commissions were like, no, Nicaragua. Let's do Nicaragua.
That's funny.
I think it's because even though maybe the land mass was a little wider than Panama, it was flatter and easier to excavate. So they thought it would be a much more affordable project.
Yeah.
The French company really wanted to make their money back. So these 2 men who were primary stockholders of the French Canal Company, William Cromwell and Lieutenant Colonel Philippe Bounanvaria, took on the task of finding a buyer.
He sounds sexy.
Yeah. I should look for a picture. He's probably not.
I know. let's play pretend. let's not look into it.
They were like, no, the U.S. is the only country in the world that's rich and powerful enough to purchase this and actually finish the canal, and they're closer to the canal, so let's make the U.S. do this. So they went to the U.S. and the U.S. was like, no, fuck you, we got Nicaragua, what do we need you for? So Bounanvaria and Cromwell went to the French and they were like, hey, $109 million is too much. The U.S. thinks that Nicaragua is where it's at, so let's drop the price to $40 million. And they agreed.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well,
that is a discount.
All their fucking assets are already rust buckets at this point, so they're like, fine, we just want to get rid of it. We'll take $40 million. Cromwell and Bounanvaria, I can't say Bounanvaria without being like Bounanvaria.
I love it.
So they start a publicity campaign to influence U.S. Senators and lawmakers and the president. They place ads in newspapers and magazines. They had pamphlets printed and distributed in D.C. and different places where lawmakers are hanging out.
Yeah.
They even go and give public lectures pointing out Panama as the superior site so that the public can be like, hey, fuck Nicaragua. Let's do Panama. Panama's cool. What are you doing? Nicaragua's stupid.
Everyone's talking about Panama.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Panama. Did you hear about Panama?
It's from you, asshole.
And apparently there was like a big ass volcano in Nicaragua that was like 20 miles from.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 20 miles from the.
That's not
Well,
smart.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the U.S. government here.
I'm like, it took me a second. I'm like, what do I know? Oh, yes. Okay. That we's dumb.
Yeah. Bougainvillea and Cromwell. Apparently there was like a Senate vote to be like, okay, Panama, like let's vote and we'll see like who wants to do Nicaragua, who wants to do Panama.
Okay.
And the day of that Senate vote, Cromwell and Bougainvillea sent all of the senators
Hookers.
Postage stamps from Nicaragua that had an image of the volcano on it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. So Panama wins.
Yeah.
So so Roosevelt gets on board. He's like, yes.
This is around
Yeah, so this is like early 1900s at this point. Roosevelt's like, okay, Panama's it. Panama's the way. We're doing Panama. Let's do this. And in 1902, the U.S. was like, yes, fuck Nicaragua. It's Panama now. But there was only one hurdle. The Colombian government, because Panama was a region in Colombia at the time. It was not its own independent country. And the Colombians had been dealing with the French for over 50 years, and they were like, fuck this. No, fuck you. Get out of here. Oh. So the U.S. goes to the Colombian government with a treaty proposal that would give Colombia $10 million up front, plus another $250,000 annually for the duration of a 100-year lease on a 6-mile wide strip of land on either side of the canal, so 12 miles total, the entire 50-mile length. So the Colombians were like, no, we're sick of you. Get out of here. And Roosevelt...
But were we even there?
Well, no, they were just like sick of the whole idea of this canal because of the French. They were like, fuck this.
Oh, okay.
So Roosevelt hears that Colombia refused the offer, and he's like, fuck you guys.
Oh, no.
We're doing Panama, whether you like it or not. He was quoted in saying, we were dealing with a government of irresponsible bandits. I was prepared to at once occupy the isthmus anyhow and proceed to dig the canal, but I deemed it likely that there would be a revolution in Panama soon. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, my God. Oh, no! Oh,
Yes.
God. Okay. I see where this is going.
Yes. So, to get Colombia out of the way, Roosevelt basically paid Bougainvillea to organize a Panamanian rebellion for independence.
It's probably not the first time that we were interfering.
Oh, definitely not the first time.
Rebellion out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, apparently Panama, there was a lot of contention in that area, and there's a big area of land that's not really developed or occupied between Panama and Colombia, or at the time there was, anyways.
Yeah.
And the people in Panama, in the region of Panama, were like, no, we don't really want to be a part of Colombia. Fuck those guys.
Yeah. Okay.
But that doesn't really make it any better. That the U.S. government was like, here, Bougainvillea, do this stuff for us, and we'll support you, and then we'll have our canal under the guise of protecting American lives in Panama.
Oh yes.
Which will become a theme.
Yeah. All 3 Americans there. You know.
So, under this guise, Roosevelt sends a U.S. battleship to Panama.
Oh, yes. That's classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, classic overreaction.
And basically the reason the battleship was there was to...
for peace.
Yes, exactly. The whole point was basically to prevent the Colombian government from sailing to Panama to stop the rebellion. Because there's this sort of heavily forested area, it is easier for them to sail to Panama from central Colombia than to try and go on ground, on foot or whatever. Okay. So Colombia goes to stop the rebellion, and there's this huge U.S. warship there, and they're like, oh,
never mind.
Okay, so the basically,
JK, guys.
Yeah, so basically the rebellion lasted 30 seconds, and they were like, oh, we're Panama now, yay!
Oh.
Yeah.
That's how Panama became. Whoa.
Yes, so that's how Panama became a country.
Oh no.
And. So, Panama declared its independence from Colombia in 1903, and Bougainvillea was made the American ambassador to Panama as compensation. He also helped... Yes.
Oh, those motherfuckers.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, of course he does. Go on.
So, he also, Bougainvillea also helped draft a treaty between Panama and the United States, and... Panama was kind of just like, thanks guys, we'll do whatever you say.
Yeah.
But the treaty was actually pretty fucked up. So the treaty gave the U.S. ownership of a path extending 5 miles on either side of the proposed canal site, and the treaty was ratified in 1904. The United States was free to treat this land as if it were U.S. territory, and in return, Panama received $10 million a year.
Okay.
But unlike the treaty that the Colombians were originally pitched, this new Panama Treaty did not include a timeline for the treaty to ever end. And Panama was kind of just like,
Guantanamo.
okay, yeah. I mean, you would think that staging a rebellion and creating an entirely new nation for...
Is what we do. Go on.
Well, yeah. Well, you would think that, like, that
Iraq.
would be the highest heights of American scandalousness.
Oh.
But no. In the immortal words of Karen Carpenter, it's only just begun.
Oh, I don't know this song.
Really?
No.
Oh my goodness. You lived under a rock?
I guess.
You've heard it. You just don't know that
maybe.
you've heard it.
Carpenter Family. It was like
The Carpenters.
Yeah.
It's a Carpenter song.
They were in a bus and they sang like as a family.
No, that's
Am I thinking of something else?
you're
It's
totally
like folksy, sort of.
were they in a bus? Maybe. No, that was like the Partridge Family or something.
Oh, maybe. Karen Carpenter. Why do I know her name?
She was anorexic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah, I do remember her. Yes, her being. Yeah, I don't remember any song, but maybe if I heard it, I would.
You've heard it.
Okay.
So, whoops.
I've never seen The Princess Bride.
That's unrelated, but okay.
I'm just saying. I was trying to shock you. This is a thing I say to white people to shock them. And they're like, oh
Well, I'm about to shock white people too. I don't actually like The Princess Bride that much.
my God. Okay, you can send all your hate mail to...
Beyond Reproach pod@gmail.com.
Wow. I love that you feel so free to say this.
This is
safe
like a safe
space.
space,
It
yeah.
is, yes.
Except we're broadcasting this to like the people of the world, and they're gonna hate us now.
Again, I love that
Our
you
like
say,
2 listeners just
oh,
plummeted.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I mean I liked it when I was younger, and I've watched it multiple times probably, but it's not like the huge.
It's like canon.
Yeah,
People love it.
yeah. To me, it's like it's okay.
Okay.
I'm not gonna like if it's on TV. I would rather watch Terms of Endearment or like Steel Magnolias.
Oh my
Give me
God.
Steel Magnolias over The Princess Bride any day
They are going to come
of the
for
week.
you in the night for these comments.
Except there are people in the world who live their lives for Steel Magnolias.
True,
so
true, yes.
if you don't have anything
Yeah.
nice to get, oh goddamn my drunken twisted tongue. If you don't have anything nice to say, come sit by me.
Oh, yes, I love that.
That's from Steel Magnolias.
That's so good. That's so, yeah, and true.
Yes.
It's so good and true.
Where were we? Okay, back to Karen Carpenter. No, so as I mentioned before, the French had built a railway along the route of their intended canal to transport construction materials and get rid of the debris. And when they were doing this, they had worked out a system to pay their workers that was called the gold and silver rolls. Some were paid gold rolls and some were paid silver rolls.
Why?
We'll get there.
Okay.
So the Americans decided to go ahead and keep the French system in place when they took over. So basically what it was is Americans and European workers were paid in gold-backed currency, while the West Indian and Latino workers were given the less valuable local silver currency.
I'm shocked by this.
Yes.
Just give me a moment.
Yeah. America. Imagine America doing such a thing. So even when the same work was performed, West Indians and Latinos were paid in a less valuable currency. And not only were the gold roll laborers paid differently, but also as an incentive for Americans to make the trip to Panama, they were also housed differently. Entire communities were built for the gold roll workers around the canal zone.
Like a camp or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, eventually they turned into like cities, these places.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I guess they had so many workers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these communities were built with furnished housing, spacious furnished housing, well-equipped schools for the workers' children's.
Oh, nice.
Children's.
Chilluns.
Yeah.
As my mother would say.
yeah, really.
She's from Alabama.
Yeah.
But we love her anyways.
Despite her
Despite
heritage.
it all. She says tomatoes.
Oh, no.
I know.
My grandmother...
And she's like, wait, how do you say it? I'm like, nothing.
My grandmother is from Arkansas and totally
Okay.
salts watermelon. and cantaloupe. Which, yeah.
Okay.
Which is apparently a southern thing.
I've had it salted.
I mean, I get the idea,
yeah,
but
it's
like,
not bad.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not bad.
Yeah. She also says dressing when she's like for stuffing at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's southern. But that's like, apparently, I've looked it up because I'm a food blogger and I'm a nerd. So the idea is
I love that you have this special voice when you say food blogger.
Because it's like
blogger.
I'm making fun of myself.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to apologize
you
for being a
with
food
like
blogger.
a mink that you just throw over your shoulder. As you say, I'm a food blogger.
Bounaveria. Yes, my stole.
Yes, your soul. Exactly. It's just always there. It's invisible. It's implied.
Yes. I don't know why I feel like I need to like make fun of myself for being a food blogger, but every fucking like Midwestern housewife in the world is a food blogger, and I feel like it's shameful. And we just lost the food bloggers listeners.
Oh my god. I'm like, your people. I see them all exiting and slamming the door.
I mean, I still do it. I love it, and I love
you
all
love
my.
it, and you're good at it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
And
embrace it.
you know, I love my readers. But where was I?
I'm sorry.
Why did we?
Oh my god, this cocktail. I should stop drinking and get some water.
Children's. Yes.
Oh god, okay, keep it together, Stephanie.
Anyways.
Keep it
I was
together.
starting to say about dressing. So dressing is if the stuffing, I'm in air quotes,
I like
guys,
that
you can't see.
Like I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, well, for
But
everyone, because they don't see the air quotes.
Okay.
Stuffing is inside of a bird. If a bird is stuffed, that is stuffing. If it's put in a
Correct.
pan and baked separately, it's dressing, not stuffing, because it's not stuffed.
Oh.
So that's the idea. And my grandmother would always make dressing, but
She would
she
never
called it
put it
dressing
in the bird.
Yeah, because the bird takes longer to cook, and it's easier. It's easier for the bird to dry out because you're cooking it for longer than necessary. Anyways, back to the children's.
I keep thinking maybe it's not going to be funny the third time.
No, it's still funny.
Incorrect. Still funny.
Okay, so the Americans. So the Gold Roll workers were housed in spacious furnished housing with well-equipped schools for their children's, parks, recreation facilities, stores, and other amenities for their families. Gold Roll workers.
I don't know what's funny, but I'm just trying. I'm still thinking about the children's.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Gold Roll workers also enjoyed paid sick leave, free health care. Imagine this. Thank
what?
the U.S. government in like 1904.
Oh, wow.
yes.
That's so much insult to injury.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Free entertainment within their communities. So like there were all these like theaters and nightclubs and stuff. And if you were a Gold Roll worker, you basically, it was all like complimentary for you to, because they wanted people to go there. So they're like, if you go, you get all this shit.
That's a great perk.
Yeah. And also
I wish they were still building this thing.
yeah. They were also given paid vacations back to their home states in the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah, like totally complimentary.
How can they afford to do all this?
I don't know where they got the funding, honestly.
I mean, I guess they're only doing it for half the people.
Yeah, well, not even half. It was about 10% of them. Yeah.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Basically only the white people. Well, not to start. So I'm going to keep going.
Go on.
Okay, so obviously these benefits were not extended to the silver roll, only to the gold roll. And originally, the two rolls were meant to separate skilled and unskilled labor.
Okay.
Supervisors used the gold roll as a reward system for skilled labor, regardless of nationality or skin color. And by 1906, about 100 skilled laborers, both West Indian and American blacks, were on the gold roll. I feel like it feels so awkward for me to say like blacks as like a group of people.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
I mean, you can say whatever.
Yeah.
I think it depends on who's saying it.
Yeah.
Like when a certain person says the blacks, or even just the Jews feels like icky. I like coming out of certain people's mouths. I'm like, don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel where this is going, and I don't like it. Yeah, it's fine.
Where was I? There were 100 black skilled laborers on the gold roll in 1906. Highly skilled black Americans were even placed on the gold roll at recruitment
Sorry
before.
to interrupt you, but what you're saying is fine. You're allowed to say black as long as you don't say the blacks.
I'm not going to say the
Yes,
blacks. Yeah.
go on. Because if you say that, then I can't protect you.
I want to say people of color, but I feel weird about saying that for a story from
yeah,
1906.
no, that wouldn't fit.
That's not what they were
Yeah,
saying in
no,
1906. They were also not saying blacks, probably.
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
They were saying something
But we're
else.
not going to say what
Yeah.
they were saying. But so at recruitment, before even leaving the U.S., some like really well trained and highly skilled laborers were like, here, if you move there, you can be on the gold roll. However, they, like, black members of the gold roll were entitled to the same privileges, air quotes again, guys, that came along with the gold roll, but they were often paid in a lower rate than the white workers. Even though they were paid in the gold roll, they didn't get the same money that white workers did. And they were denied certain benefits, especially sick leave and access to the gold roll housing.
What?
Yeah.
They had to find their own housing?
I mean,
Wow.
because it was 1906
Oh,
and they're
yeah,
like, you can't live with white
segregated.
people.
Yeah.
Which is like,
Damn.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that meant they were placed in the silver roll housing or if they had to find their own housing. I'm not sure how that worked.
Oh, yeah.
But the silver roll housing was horrible.
Of course it was.
So it didn't take long for the U.S. to sort of change the system.
Yeah. Just
from-
hiring.
Yes.
Yes.
So it went from this sort of skilled versus unskilled to basically a Jim Crow era segregation system.
Yeah.
Silver roll laborers suffered from malnutrition, lived in filthy barracks or huts, and were vulnerable. God damn it. I'm
Vulnerable.
3 ounces of gin
Yes.
in here. Were vulnerable to poisonous snakes, malaria, and yellow fever. During U.S. construction of the canal, disease and accidents claimed a total of 5,609 lives. 4,500 of those lives lost were black laborers. But that's not even, like, honestly,
like
that was
85%.
that was after they had figured out that the malaria was caused by mosquitoes and drained swamps and stuff. So way more people died under the French system because they didn't know how to stop malaria yet at that point.
Okay.
So even though
This is
still
like
4,500 black laborers lost their
Yeah.
lives, it would have been like thousands and thousands more under French rule because of malaria. And there still was some malaria, but not even close to what it was before. So in 1905, Canal authorities decided to prohibit the promotion of employees from the silver to the gold rolls on the grounds that it complicated bookkeeping and violated the color line.
What? Wow, I love that they wrote that. And they're like, these are our reasons.
Some supervisors objected to this, saying that it set up pay inequities and eliminated a key incentive for outstanding blacks, but the rule stood.
Yeah.
Skin color rather than skill level became the leading criteria used to assign men to the silver or the gold rolls. And I have a quote from an exchange of memos between two Canal Company executives. I have been endeavoring to transfer all Negroes from the gold to the silver roll. Under the former operations of the French Panama Railroad, this question was not given very much attention. Some of these people resent the transfer.
Some. Oh, just, 100%.
This situation, however, is getting to be somewhat awkward as we have divided the gold and the silver employees in our commissary. So, they were like, well, how, gold roll blacks can't eat with white people. So we're sending the gold roll
To the
silver commissary.
Yeah.
Because segregation is, obviously the law of the land in a U.S. territory in 1905.
Yeah.
So officials at this point instruct the recruiters in the United States only to offer gold roll contracts to white men. American blacks continued to earn more than West Indians, but were no longer paid in gold. So they were paid in silver, but at a higher rate than the West Indians because they're American.
Okay.
White Americans tended to earn roughly double what American black men made, even doing the same work.
Yeah. Not surprised.
because of competition from skilled European and West Indians, American labor unions got involved and started campaigning to remove any foreigners from the skilled positions. And in 1909, President William Howard Taft sided with union leaders and issued executive order that only American citizens would be appointed to the gold roll. And there's like a whole sort of another mini scandal that I'm not getting into because it's too complicated. There's way too much going on. But like,
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. I mean, like, Europeans apparently after this were like placed on the silver roll, but at a different rate and housed differently. So like, European
the ones
silver
who were already
roll.
working there though were moved.
No, this was like for new hires.
Okay.
But then a lot of the ones that were already there were demoted or something and they put them in totally separate housing that was like silver roll housing, but for white Europeans.
Okay.
It's just, the whole thing was just like, what are you doing?
Okay.
But it was because these American white dudes were like, we don't want competition. We want all the good shit for ourselves. And the labor unions were like, yeah, that's cool. Of course. You get what you want because you're white American men.
Yeah.
So with the Europeans out of the way, the union's next move was to start demoting all of the black engineers down to the silver roll. And it was said to be one of the most vicious episodes in Canal history. So construction completed in 1914. This sort of like Jim Crow style system of managing things, though, continued with the operation of the canal well into the 1960s.
Damn.
Finally, in the 60s, responding to pressures from the American civil rights movement, as well as the American government hoping to improve relations with Latin America, they finally abolished the gold roll system and racially integrated all of the Canal Zone schools and communities. But, I mean, at that point, the damage was already done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And even after this, even once they had... I mean, this was basically like the schools were integrated within the Canal Zone, but Americans within the Canal Zones versus like Panamanians living in Panama were still segregated in a system that's akin to apartheid.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Just because of the American influence.
Yeah. And because they were like, this is a U.S. territory, this strip of land along the canal is the U.S. for all intents and purposes.
Okay.
Wow. And Panama is not welcome within this strip of fucking land.
Wow.
Which brings us to our next fourth scandal, right? Yeah.
Everything is so scandalous.
We had the French.
Oh, yes.
The creation of Panama, then the Jim Crow system, so now we're going into the fourth scandal.
Okay.
Hold on to your butts. So, since the day that Panama signed this fucked up treaty with the U.S. in 1904, there have been several political and economic points of contention between the two countries. The hastily drafted treaty was vague and ambiguous, and the U.S.
lasted forever.
Yes, exactly. And the U.S., you know, totally used that to their fullest advantage. Of
course they did.
And they frequently intervened in Panamanian affairs, sticking their goddamn nose where it didn't fucking belong. Just because they were like, the canal's here, and we want you guys to just shut up and fucking, like, you can live here, but, like, don't do anything. Don't make waves. So every time something was going on in Panama, they were like, hey, excuse me, we have an opinion.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Actually, no.
Yeah. So the issue of sovereignty was a particularly...
Okay, so the U.S. has a territory that's about 60 miles.
It's 50 miles long.
But then 5 on each side,
and
right?
10 miles wide.
Oh, 10 miles wide. Okay.
Yeah.
How, like, in the scale of Panama, like, it's like...
Panama's a small country.
It's
so
small, right?
It's a big chunk of change, like, when you're talking landmass.
Like 10%?
Probably not 10%. It's probably less than that. But it's still, like... And it's in the middle of the country, too.
Damn, yeah.
So...
Okay.
There's, like, a sort of, like, militarized zone, too. There's lots of naval bases and stuff in Panama, especially during the war and all this.
Okay.
So if Panamanians wanted to travel from northern Panama to southern Panama, they have to go through the Canal Zone, which is under U.S. control.
Okay.
So sovereignty was a particularly sore point with the Panamanian government, and Panamanian nationalists, like, really, really resented the fact that within the Canal Zone, only the U.S. flag was flown, even though they're in Panama. So the U.S. Defense Department felt that flying the Panamanian flag in the Canal Zone would undermine American control and set a dangerous precedent. But the State Department thought that it would be a small concession to, like,
is this a flag?
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, we have to keep Panama happy so that we can stay here. We want a continued presence in Panama, so, like, let's just make them happy.
Yeah.
So the two departments basically compromised and decided to fly both flags at one location within this Canal Zone.
Oh my God.
On September, I know. On September 21st, 1960.
Why even do that at all?
Yes. So they had a ceremony to celebrate
Oh, no, they didn't.
the flying of the Panamanian
Oh my
flag
God.
at one location.
I want to set everything on fire right now.
So as you reacted,
Oh my God.
Panamanian nationalists were like, what the fuck? This isn't enough.
Please tell me
because it wasn't.
They set fire to everything.
We'll get there. So they like were like, no, fuck you guys.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
come
So
on.
they reached another agreement a few later. I think shortly thereafter, they reached an agreement where the Panamanian flag would be flown along with the U.S. flag at several, but not all, several locations within the Canal Zone. After this, though, U.S. citizens living within the Canal Zone started pitching a fit about a foreign flag being flown within U.S. territory. Because they're like, what this is, for all intents and purposes, this is the U.S. Why are we flying a Panamanian flag?
Because you're in Panama.
Wow. So,
That's why.
yeah. So,
Any other questions? No? Okay, we're done. Oh, cool.
So, in an act of petty bullshit.
This is already so petty.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I'm seated because I would throw myself on the floor.
Yes.
This is too much for me.
So, in January of 1964, with the consent of adults,
Oh no.
American students at Balboa High School in Panama raised the U.S. flag only at their school's campus.
There's some shitty kids.
And like their parents were like, that's cool. The school administrators, great, good idea. On the evening of January 9th, approximately 200 Panamanian students from another school outside of the Canal Zone entered with their flag. And a battle broke out on the campus of the school between the two student groups, and the Panamanian flag was torn.
What?
And when the Panamanian people heard about what happened, the resulting mob violence lasted 3 days, causing the death of more than 20 people and the destruction of $2 million in property.
I was hoping that it would be like West Side Story and they would just
dance
together.
They danced it out and everything was
danced
great.
their problems away.
Yes.
Isn't that how it works? No? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Violence, destruction. Okay.
The
The movies lie to me. And that's okay.
Well, that is how it happened in the movie about this. Because Panama was like, it was a new country, or a relatively new country, and the way that they were founded was totally kind of fucked up and like poorly planned. And,
kind of fucked up?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Okay.
very fucked up,
Thank you.
but very poorly planned.
Yeah.
They didn't really have a system of government in place when all this went down, and it had only been 60 some odd years that they were around, and the U.S., every time they tried to do anything, the U.S. was like, excuse me. So in the 60s, they started seeing a lot of like coups and military dictators and all this stuff. So in the 60s, there was a coup, and Panama was under the military leadership of Omar Torrijos. He made it a priority to take control of the canal out of U.S. hands, and after over 4 years of negotiations with President Jimmy Carter, the Torrijos-Carter treaties were signed in 1977. The U.S. committed to placing the canal solely in Panamanian hands by the year 2000, and the Canal Zone was abolished 2 years later.
In the 70s.
In 1977, so 79 was when the Canal Zone was abolished, and sort of integrated, the apartheid system was done with, and Panamanians could travel freely within the Canal Zone. Panama was given an increasing amount of responsibility for the operation and management of the canal, and under the treaties, the U.S. also agreed to stay the fuck out of Panamanian affairs for the remainder of our time there. This was
Good.
79 to 2000, so like 21 years. We were like, okay, we'll back the fuck off.
Yeah.
Except we didn't.
Oh, no. Because what, Jimmy said yes, and everyone else is like, nah.
Why that fucking peanut farmer?
Yeah.
So our next scandal, and last scandal, even though we're 4 hours into this story already, a little bit of background. There was a Panamanian general who trained at one of the U.S. military bases in the Canal Zone named General Manuel Noriega.
Oh,
you may
God.
have heard of him.
Oh, no. Of course he trained.
Noriega was a U.S. intelligence asset and paid informant for the CIA back in 1967. He sided with the U.S. rather than the USSR in Central America, sabotaging the Sandinistas in Nicaragua and helping revolutionaries in El Salvador. He received huge sums of money from the U.S. government for his support. And he also worked with the American DEA to restrict drug shipments
hilarious.
to the U.S. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
But was known to accept financial support from drug dealers in Latin America.
Was he now?
Imagine.
What?
Noriega. So in the 1980s, under President Reagan, for some reason, relations with Noriega started to deteriorate.
Oh my God.
Just say no to Reagan.
Yeah.
So Noriega's allegiance started to shift toward the Soviets, and he was soliciting and receiving military aid from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Libya. In 1889, there was an election in Panama.
1989.
What did I say? 1889? Yes. God damn. I moved on to rosé, people. Because there's less alcohol in it than 3 ounces of gin per cocktail. So
I have chilled on the gin because I know that I'm going next and I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so in 1989, there was an election in Panama, and Noriega backed one candidate, his favorite candidate, but the opposition candidate won in a 3-1 landslide. Noriega declared the election results were bogus because of American meddling, and President George Bush Sr. called on Noriega to honor the will of the Panamanian people. In December...
I mean, we were there influencing things.
Totally. Yeah. But also Noriega was horrible. But
how did he get horrible?
Well,
where did he get his training?
Yes, exactly. Okay. In December, Panama declared that the actions of the United States had caused a state of war to exist between Panama and the United States.
Okay.
The next day, 4 U.S. military personnel were stopped at a roadblock in Panama City, shots were fired, and 1 soldier was killed. Within days, President Bush ordered Operation Just Cause. The U.S. military invaded Panama, justified by Bush for the purpose of protecting American lives in Panama.
Yes.
And combating drug trafficking and upholding the Torrijos-Carter treaties. The operation lasted several weeks. So Noriega took refuge in the Vatican diplomatic mission in Panama City. Okay. And to put psychological pressure on Noriega as well as the Vatican mission, among other tactics, they played, quote, loud rock and roll music day and night in a densely populated area.
Wow.
And Noriega finally surrendered.
I would do the same after a few hours.
Yeah. Noriega surrendered to the U.S. military on January 3rd, 1990. I know.
Was there death metal?
There was like
then?
a Spotify playlist. I think. There was like hair metal.
Wow.
I wonder if somebody can get a hold of that playlist.
Did they just do it
by
the church?
Call it Noriega's Demise.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they just had big speakers. But like this church is in the middle of fucking Panama City. It's not like... or the mission, I should say.
Damn.
Yeah. But it wasn't just that. I mean, there was was literally like war in the city of Panama City was like fucking decimated because of like, it was a full on urban warfare. And
so there were ground troops and everything?
Like I was looking at the Wikipedia page about Operation Just Cause and it goes through all the regiments that are there and it's like fucking like 3 pages long. It's insane. So according to official Pentagon figures, 516 Panamanians were killed, but other estimates range from anywhere from 500 to over 3,000. 85% of them civilians from the working class neighborhood of El Chorrillo in Panama City, which would join the Canal Zone. Fires swept through the city. About
What?
200. Yeah, I mean, there was so much destruction. There was tanks, like, it was insane.
Wow.
Just fucking, like, blasting buildings apart.
And it's so densely
and they knew where
populated.
Noriega was. Like,
Yeah.
I guess they were trying, because there was a lot of pro-Noriega, like, rebels and stuff that were trying to fight the Americans. But, like,
Yeah.
shit got fucked.
Wow.
20,000 people lost their homes and became refugees because of the destruction. And eventually, after the U.S. pulled out, a group of 60 Panamanian business owners filed a lawsuit against the U.S. government alleging the action against Panama was done in a torturous, careless, and negligent manner with disregard for the property of innocent Panamanian residents. Most of the businesses had insurance, but the insurers either went bankrupt or refused to pay, claiming that the acts of war were not covered.
Oh, no. Shit.
And this is like a poor neighborhood in
Yeah.
Panama City. Basically, is a poor neighborhood because of the silver rolls. Like, this is like
Yeah.
the whole, I mean, it's
They
just one fucking thing after
created
another.
this neighborhood.
Exactly.
And then they bulldozed it and set it ablaze.
Yeah, exactly. And these poor fucking people, 85% civilian death. Like,
Oh my god, wow.
so the invasion provoked international outrage, and many countries said that the U.S. had committed an act of aggression by invading Panama, and the UN condemned the invasion as a flagrant violation of international law.
Yeah. We don't care.
Like, all of these things, all of these stories, I could have gotten into way more detail.
Yeah.
There was so much information,
No,
and
I'm
like
sure this is like the tip of the iceberg.
it's literally because I've already told Stephanie this, but you guys, my outline for the story, I've got down to 10 pages. It was originally when I was I went through, got all the information that I could find and put it into a Word document. My outline was 28 pages long, and I had to fucking like chip away at it down to 10 pages because I'm like, we don't have time.
Yeah.
Nobody got time for that.
No. Damn.
But if anyone's super interested in Panama, there's a lot of books.
Yeah.
We'll put up liner notes on
Yeah,
our
we'll
website.
drop it in the show notes.
Yeah, and you can see liner notes. I don't know why I said liner notes. Show notes.
Yeah.
With links to all the sources of my information, and you can do a little bit more reading. But there are books on the history of Panama because it's fucked. Like,
Wow.
And there's a lot more.
I had no clue.
Yeah. No, neither did I.
None.
Finally, under the terms of the Torrijos-Carter treaties, the canal was finally handed over to Panama on New Year's Eve, 1999.
God.
Not all Panamanians really look at the U.S. as the bad guy in this.
Okay.
Because,
So
like I
we
said,
brainwashed a few.
well, but also,
Ooh.
like I was saying before, the Panamanian people that were living in the Panamanian territory under Colombian rule, at the time that Roosevelt got involved and helped the rebels, they really thought that Roosevelt was like the good guy.
Yeah, because they wanted a Panama away separate from Colombia.
Yeah, but just the terms of everything and the way it all went down was fucked. But they kind of were still like, well, we're still Panama and we wouldn't be otherwise.
Okay.
And then there's also a lot of people that were like, no, Noriega was horrible. He wasn't, like, we had an election, but then he was like, no, the person I said should win didn't win, so fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And then, the U.S. was like, no, the people who won should win. Even though they really probably did influence the election. But so there are a lot of Panamanians that see the U.S. as sort of, not as a good guy, because no.
Yeah.
But like,
they're not stupid.
Yeah. But also like,
Not the worst.
think that there was, you
Good
have
and
to take
bad.
the good and bad.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to
Okay.
take...
The realist.
Exactly. This was also at a time in world history when like globalism is becoming a thing and the U.S. is putting their fucking nose in all over Latin America. It's not just Panama.
Yeah.
Latin America.
Yeah, was there for the taking.
Exactly. And there were military dictators and coups and stuff in all of these countries, all over South America. Like, and it's our fucking fault that shit's the way it is. And now we're like, oh, Mexicans, you can't fucking come here.
Yeah, no.
We're the reason that you want to, but fuck you, get out.
We always veer in this direction because there are so many parallels between the fuckery that's happening now.
It's cause and effect.
The root cause,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy.
But think people, especially politicians, don't think of things in like a linear timeline because if it doesn't benefit them immediately, it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
And then they don't think about the repercussions of their actions because that's on a different politician to clean up the mess.
Not my problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so good. The cream is putting something in my stomach right now.
Well, there's protein in there too. There's an egg white.
It's a meal.
Yeah, I mean, literally.
It's complete.
Yes. You got your cream, you got your fruit.
My story today is about a man. About a very simple, sexy man. Sexy by his day.
A sexy man?
A sexy man, if you will. I'm going to refer to him as, well, I would like to refer to him as Warren G. Or Mr. Harding, if you're nasty.
Oh, Mr. Harding, if you're nasty.
But
yes, please.
Yes, you're like, I am. Check the box. So my scandal involves our 29th president, Warren G. Harding. So everything about this man in his very short administration is pretty fucking scandalous. Like from start to finish, it's a bit of a shit show. It's crazy because his administration only lasted 2 years. And it was just a mess. And I know that I can't discuss everything in this episode, so I'm focusing on the scandals that are related to his personal life. And I will hopefully at some point loop back around to the political scandals, because there are many, many countless scandals. So who is Warren G. Harding, and why should anyone care? Some fun facts. Warren Gamaliel Harding was born in Blooming Grove, Ohio on November 2nd.
Ohio again.
Yes, right? I didn't do this on purpose, you guys. it's not a good thing, as you will hear. So he's from Blooming Grove, Ohio. He was born on November 2nd, 1865. He's the eldest of 8 children. His family called him Winnie.
Winnie.
Yes, I think it's just so cute. He played an instrument called the cornet. Do you know what the cornet is?
No.
Okay, so it's like if a French horn and a trumpet, like listen to some Marvin Gaye. It's kind of like a mix of the two. It's super brassy. There's lots of pipes, and it's deliciously old-timey. You would love it. He graduated from Ohio Central College, now defunct, in 1882. And from there he moved to Marion, Ohio, where he eventually found work as a newspaper reporter. He then became an editor, and then 2 years after that, him and some friends bought the struggling newspaper that they were working at called the Marion Star. In 1891, Harding married Florence Kling de Wolf, who goes by the name of Flossie.
Flossie.
Isn't that great? She's so great. But she was a local woman, previously divorced. She had a child from her first marriage. The Hardings themselves had no children together, but they were business partners and political allies. Florence was extremely pivotal in his rise. She was extremely organized. She was basically the brains behind his operation. She brought his struggling newspaper into solvency, and after that she spearheaded Warren's political career. And she once remarked that, quote, "I have only one real hobby, my husband."
I mean, ain't that the way it usually is? It's always the wife behind the man.
Yeah. Upon their arrival at the White House, she was widely reported to say, quote, "Well, Warren Harding, I got you to the presidency. Now what are you going to do?" So she had some spunk in her. I loved researching her. While in office, he was one of the most popular presidents, but a myriad of administrative scandals quickly eroded his pop appeal after his death. So even though he was popular at the time, historically, he is ranked amongst the worst presidents, if not the worst president.
Wow.
Yeah, unlike in all the polls. He's that bad. I mean, worst president before 2016.
What year again was this? Or like, what years was he?
He got into office in 1921 to 23.
So, worst president in the essentially 100 years ago.
Yeah.
The worst president back then is like, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, seriously. Hold my beer.
Exactly. You think you're the worst?
Yeah. Silly them. Silly world. Okay, so he was considered politically inept, and his administration was widely regarded as historically one of the most corrupt. He slashed immigration quotas. He appointed his cronies, one of whom, his Secretary of Interior, sold off public land to an oil company. And
In the 20s?
In the 20s. So,
wow, so this shit...
Yeah.
Really? Okay, so he is terrible.
Yeah, he's real bad.
Well, okay.
He's real bad.
I was not giving you enough credit. You know.
Yeah, he's...
Old Warren G. I didn't even know.
You didn't even know.
I didn't know.
So he kind of brought the end of the famously reform-minded era before that of Roosevelt and Wilson. So how, besides his wife, did he become president? Harding, he started as a moderate Republican. He began his political career in 1898 by winning the Ohio Senate race, and he served in the Senate until 1903. He was Ohio's lieutenant governor between 1904 and 1906, but he lost a bid for the governorship in 1910. 2 years later, he stepped into the national spotlight, making a speech at the RNC nominating Taft for a second term, and that's when the world saw how pretty he was.
Was he pretty?
He was pretty. He was really attractive. He was like the Clooney of the day.
Oh.
Like, women would probably be writing their number in their panties and, like, throwing it. If they
That's hot.
would have done
I mean,
like
but
that.
they're like pantaloons.
And they're
No, I
and they're
guess this, in
bloomers?
the 20s...
Is that a thing?
Bloomers.
Or is that for babies?
Yeah, pantaloons was probably pre-20s. Maybe bloomers was in the 20s.
Okay.
Was the 20s? Am I thinking of the 30s when women used to like draw the grease pencil down the back of their legs because they couldn't afford, I don't want to say panties. Because I'm a man. Stockings. Thank you. Nylons.
Because you're a man.
Yeah. Because men like to say the word panties.
Oh, okay. So wait, they would just draw a line down
because
their...
they couldn't afford nylons because of the Depression.
In what? Like Sharpie?
But good Lord, none of this has anything to do with the 20s because this was not in the 20s that this happened.
Well,
this was
we'll
after.
be getting into the 20s.
Women
We're
were not
talking
wearing bloomers.
1904.
1904?
Yeah, 1904.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so they
early.
were still wearing pantaloons, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Who fucking knows what
Who
women,
knows?
what,
Okay.
what undergarments.
Let's pretend that they're wearing pantaloons
Yes,
and they're
they were
throwing
wearing
it
some
at Harding.
antiquated undergarments in
Yes.
1904, and that's all we need to know.
At
They're
the-
corsets. They were throwing corsets onto the
Wow.
stage.
So elaborate. They're like
It
stripping
took them
down.
like 45 minutes to like
Right.
unzip them, or like whatever you do with a
Yeah.
corset. Who knows? I'm not a drag queen. I don't know.
Okay, back to the story. Okay, so during the RNC, everyone saw how pretty he was. His handsome looks and his easy manner immediately caught the attention of a well-connected political strategist named Harry Dougherty. He's a fixer who, apparently in their first meeting, after talking with Harding, he commented, quote, "Gee, what a good-looking president he'd make."
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to... So we're obviously going to find photos of this man and put
Oh,
them
yes,
on our Instagram so
absolutely.
that everybody can
Yeah.
revel in his
Yeah.
beautiful glory.
I mean, the young Harding was I see it. I see it.
Would you jump his presidential bones?
I mean, if I didn't know about him, perhaps.
Okay.
Perhaps.
You know too much.
I know too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I hate it when that happens.
I respect myself too much.
No talking.
To do that. Yeah, no talking. Just be pretty. This political strategist saw him and basically decided to make him president. Dougherty, with the help of Mrs. Harding, whose newspaper experience gave her a huge advantage over the other candidates' wives, because she knew the power of the press to manipulate and like shape stories. The two of them helped him win another Senate race in 1914 and then the White House in 1921, both in landslide victories. That's how Warren G. Harding became the 29th president. He was 55 years of age at the time, and he served for 2 years until his sudden and slightly mysterious death in 1923. So by all accounts, he wasn't prepared at all for such a rapid ascent into stardom, into the highest office, but he was amused by it.
Oh.
He had a very great sense of humor. Once in office, once he became president, he was quick to admit his limitations and, quote, he said, "I don't know what to do or where to turn. Somewhere there must be a book that tells me about it. By God, this is a hell of a place for a man like me to be in."
What the fuck?
He says that after getting into the White House. Yeah.
I mean, okay, so at least he's self-aware enough to be
Yeah.
like, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah.
Like, wake up, like, after you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what did I do last night? Oh, fuck.
He's He's like, how did I get into this white building? Are you familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's Blink?
No.
Okay, it was a really big, like, New York Times bestseller. It's about...
I've heard of Malcolm Gladwell, but I haven't.
Yeah, it's about the of like thinking without thinking, basically, like precognitive.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, it's like the assumptions we make based on looking at people.
I do my best thinking when I'm not thinking.
No, we all do. It's evolutionary. So Gladwell has a chapter 3, called the Warren Harding Error, that explores the dark sides of precognitive processes called thin slicing. Gladwell argues that, quote, he only won the presidency because he dazzled the populace with his face and demeanor, and because he had master puppeteer Harry Dougherty controlling him. Gladwell argues that American voters assumed that Harding would be a great president because of the intuitive evidence, air quotes, that he looked presidential.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I love it when people vote based on nothing.
Well,
they're like, I've decided.
In their head, it's not nothing. Like, we're so visual as creatures that...
I mean, if we were visual...
This is like sub-cognitive. Like, these are just snap... It's like, there's something about this guy that I like, sort of thing.
Okay, yes, that's legit.
Yeah.
That is a legit...
They're not like, oh, I'm voting for the pretty one. But it's like...
I mean, that's how Kennedy, even though he was a Catholic...
Oh my god! Oh god! He was incompetent and he was in over his head, but the public loved him. Did he have
like a Karl Rove?
Yeah, no, he had this Harry Dougherty.
No,
He's the one
okay.
who
I thought
found
he was
him.
he was just like a PR man, but he was more. He had like actual political agendas and
he was a strategist. He was an advisor.
Oh, okay.
He was doing this, like the Rove.
Yes.
I'm making puppet hands.
Yes, I was going to say nobody knows what this is.
Puppet hands.
Okay.
So again, he was extremely popular right up until his death. So what did he do in office? In office, he had himself a time. He had a pet dog named Ladyboy.
Ladyboy.
An Airedale.
Was he from Thailand?
He had a little Thai dog named Ladyboy.
That might need to come out. I don't know if that's okay.
We're gonna cut that. It's okay.
Fuck. What did I
So it begins. Okay, so he had a pet dog, an Airedale named Ladyboy, that each day collected and delivered the president's newspaper.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know if this was like the first of like the presidential pets? Was this what kicked off like?
I don't know, but maybe.
Yeah, because I remember growing up there was
Because
always like a presidential pet.
His dog had a seat in his cabinet. Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes, the dog had its own chair for cabinet meetings.
And his agenda was like, more bones, please.
I loved researching this story because it is so outrageous. Everything is. This guy was just, doing whatever the fuck he wanted.
He's like, fuck it, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna do what I want to do.
That could have been a direct quote from him. I just didn't see that one. So, while in office, he enjoyed playing golf, watching baseball games, and twice a week he played poker with the White House office staff, and he called them his poker cabinet.
Poker cabinet.
And he was drinking in these games.
I mean, I guess I'm not mad at that, because, like...
But the 18th Amendment wasn't in effect, so he was committing a federal crime twice a week in the White House. Yeah. And at one of these poker games, he gambled the White House china and lost the game and the china.
Shut the fuck up.
I wish I was lying.
So...
he was a professional, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Well, so... does somebody still have the White House china, or is it back in the White House? No, this
person has it. It's gone. Yeah, it's gone.
Is it in like a museum or something now?
I don't know.
See,
I'm guessing it was worth a lot of money, or he wouldn't have gambled it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
we're talking like just like the ordinary like white
Washington.
IKEA.
Washington like went to Macy's with Betsy Ross.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And they're like holding hands in the wedding
being like, do you
department.
like this one?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
No, there's
I don't
too many flowers. Yeah. It's too much.
Need some manly.
Yeah. Okay.
Cherry blossoms.
Cherry blossoms, yes, of course.
Yes.
But so is there new White House china? Did they have to like...
I'm guessing he didn't gamble it all away, just like select pieces.
So they're like, when they have like State Department dinners, they're like, this is like the butter dish. You guys have to share. I know there's 700 diplomats here, but there's one butter dish.
Yeah.
No, okay. I'm sorry, but I need to know more.
Right? Exactly.
About
this story, I mean, just everything about this story. That's why it was so hard to pull together. Because I'm like, no, I need to focus. It's like, no, everyone, I need a wider lens on him because he's just so good. So yeah, he was just having all the fun in the office. So the best thing that can be really said about Harding is that he was extremely conscious of his defects as a man.
Like limitations.
His limitations.
Okay. That's fair.
He was quoted as saying, "I'm not fit for this office and should have never been here."
I mean, I'm not mad at that. I'm like,
Yeah.
good for him, because...
It's refreshing, right?
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's a shit man, and
Shit.
I mean, every quote, like I'm just reading between the lines. He's saying,
Yeah.
"I am shit, but I'm here,
Uh-huh.
and I know that I'm shit." Like that's something that he's self-aware.
Yeah, okay.
And he didn't have to be. Like, it was so weird to read all these quotes. Like, he's quoted as saying about himself, "I'm a man of limited talents."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so refreshing.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I love him.
Right? So there are a lot of historians that have looked into him. And there's a man by the name of Kevin Cruz, a historian at Princeton, who said he felt woefully underqualified for his job. And that set in motion a chain of events that set him up to be one of the worst presidents in history. He was nervous about it, so he surrounded himself with old friends from his hometown who themselves were unqualified for it.
That's something sounds familiar.
Yeah, they were unqualified, and many of them were corrupt.
Oh, I mean, imagine that.
Yeah. So shortcomings aside, he did seem to genuinely be a nice person. He really loved people, perhaps a little bit too much. He was a bit of a people pleaser.
Was he corrupt though? Like, so he's putting...
He wasn't. No, he was just naive and surrounding himself with people who are just like lining their pockets behind his back.
I feel like this is like this. Why isn't there a movie? I feel like there needs to be like a Tom Hanks movie about this. Like this, like sort of dopey, handsome guy just wakes up in the White House one day and was like, "I'm just gonna go like jump on the fucking keyboard at FAO Schwartz because they're like, this could be a movie.
Yeah.
And why isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey Hollywood, I know you need to make
you're listening.
a third remake of fucking Poltergeist, but why don't you make...
After you make that movie, you should make our movie.
Yeah.
And give us all the money.
Warren G wakes up in the fucking White House one day.
Yeah.
He's like, shit damn.
Him and his...
I'm just going to fucking grow pot plants on the front lawn.
Him and Ladyboy. Just like having...
I can't.
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't that great? I'm like, did I make this up? Like, am I hallucinating right now? Like, what is
Lord.
going... Yeah.
Did he not... Well, I guess Ladyboy had a different... Or zero meaning back then,
probably zero. But you never... Yeah. It was just... When I saw that, I'm just like, I'm on the right path. This is the story for me.
I'm 100% pleased. I know that you were stressed
good.
about getting this together, but I'm very happy that this is the story that you've chosen.
So I was reading this Atlantic article about him, and they mentioned that his fatal flaw wasn't a classically epic one, such as pride or ambition. It was something more innocuous, but for him, equally lethal. It was his chronic need to be liked.
Still, I don't know what it is, but it still feels refreshing.
It is, right?
Even though, I mean, obviously
not
that's
good.
not good for a president, but like, at least he wants to please the American people and not like corporate America.
He was not trying to be
like,
great, but he's like, I just want people to like me.
Yeah.
So his father, just knowing who his son was, he was recounting in public the following words that his father said. Quote, "Warren, it's a good thing you wasn't born a gal, because you'd be in the family way all the time. You can't say no."
Oh my
He told this story about his father saying this to him, to the papers. Like, this man had no...
Love him. Right? I love him.
I'm like, you love him now, just wait.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You would be...
This is not the story that I thought you were going to tell.
You wasn't born a gal because you'd be in the family way all the time. You can't say no.
Sometimes I wish that I was born in the 20s.
Yeah,
or,
just so you could
well,
say
I
the
guess in
family
like
way.
1900 so that I could like live through the 20s. But then I'm like, oh wait, I'm gay, and I enjoy the company of like people who are not just straight white people.
Yeah.
So that would probably suck,
Yeah, it'd be
actually.
a bummer. Yeah, it's fun to look back.
Yeah.
I just wish we would still say the family way. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so folksy.
It's wonderful.
This very folksy quote brings me to the topic of my scandal.
Oh, we're just reaching the topic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, this is
I need to shut my goddamn
this
mouth.
is just painting a picture of who he is. So he liked golf, basketball,
I'm gonna sit on the floor.
gambling.
I'm gonna pour myself another glass of rosé
Okay.
and sit on the floor for a second.
So he had all these hobbies that he loved doing in the White House, but his favorite pastime was putting his dick into other women.
Really?
Yes. Oh. I know. You loved him so much. I feel like I just broke your heart.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But he's a man with power. And he had these like sexy, powerful eyebrows too. So just
I love
imagine.
a good, powerful eyebrow.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't.
Oh my god.
He looks great.
Can we talk about? We shouldn't, but can we talk about Daniel Levy?
Who's Daniel Levy?
Oh my god. Do you know Eugene Levy from all those?
Yes, with the eyebrows.
Yes, his son.
Oh no.
Is a gay man.
Really,
Fucking
really sexy.
Foxy McFoxerton
Yeah.
with the eyebrows.
Yeah.
Oh my god, he's
A good
so
brow will always
hot.
get
Like
me.
Russell is fully aware. Given the opportunity,
Oh yes.
we would no longer.
He
be
would
a
wish
couple.
you well.
Yes, exactly.
He'd be like,
No, he would probably be like jealous that we weren't a throuple.
no.
I'd be like, no, this man is all for me. Go fuck yourself.
You're like, check the agreements of our marriage.
Yes, this is
Okay.
in our prenup that we
Yeah.
never signed.
That's
Anyways, I'm
hilarious.
sorry, but yes, eyebrows for days. We'll put it on the Instagram.
Yeah, we'll drop it in the show notes as well, just for people like me who are unaware of his sexiness. So I'm going to talk a little bit about his old ball and chain, Flossie, if you will.
I love that her name is Flossie.
Me too, and I shouldn't badmouth it, but I love it. I should put some respect on her name because she's so amazing, as you will see.
Oh, I love her.
So he married a feminist. He married a divorced local piano teacher, a woman 5 years his senior, who had a child from previous marriage. Her first marriage was a complete shotgun affair. So
Sure.
she was 30, divorced, estranged from her father.
30 years old.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, at this point in history, 1 foot in the grave.
yeah. Correct. She was all of that, a mother of a young son, making her living as a piano teacher when she caught the eye of Warren Harding, who was the newspaper editor of the town at the time. So they were wed in 1891.
Why is this not a movie?
I know. And the wedding was opposed by her father, who said that he was social climbing and that he wasn't good enough for her.
Even though she's a fucking 30-year-old divorcee with a kid from another.
Yeah, but it was like he had a crystal ball and was seeing into the future.
Okay.
Because he was right.
Sure,
But,
yes, okay.
At the time, he didn't go to the wedding.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they get married, and before and during his marriage, Harding dealt with some health issues. He spent time in a sanatorium for reasons described as fatigue, overstrain, and a nervous illness.
Really?
But they suspect now that it was like a precursor to the heart ailment that would have eventually did kill him, because he was feeling like irregular sort of heartbeats. So he was regularly in the hospital recovering.
I feel like any number of these things
Yeah,
could have ruined
Exactly.
a president or ruined a campaign.
definitely. So during the time of her husband's illnesses, Florence became the business manager of the Marion Star, the newspaper that he owned. Using her business sense, gleaned from working with her father at a young age, the newspaper finally started to make a profit. She is really good at managing things, so she decided to manage his career. And she's the one who encouraged him to pursue politics. Apparently, Harding affectionately called his wife the Duchess, based on a character from a serial in the New York Sun in which the Duchess kept a close eye on the Duke and their money. So again, this man is so aware of his shortcomings, like he knows he isn't shit, but found a woman who was to carry him to the
I
White
love
House.
them. I guess
Yeah.
I love her even more than I love him. Obviously, now
duh.
knowing about the extramarital affairs.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
there was a cartoon after he was in the White House that depicted the couple. The caption was the chief executive and Mr. Harding. So people knew that she was the chief because she was good at things. So, okay, let the literal fuckery begin. I'm going to dive into the scandals. Now that they're married.
Okay.
The first scandal happened 3 years into their marriage, and guess who he slept with?
Monica Lewinsky.
I'm going to give you 2 more tries and make them real.
We're talking the 20s. I don't fucking know.
Just think of stereotypical things.
Stereotypical things.
Like, who do you cheat with? Just in general.
A White House intern.
He's not in the White House yet.
Oh, damn it. The nanny.
You got one. Oh, that's a good one. But no.
Oh.
Her childhood best friend.
Oh.
They had a daughter together.
Fuck her.
Yeah. They had
What? Really?
And he fucked her literally, and he got a daughter as a result from his wife's childhood best friend.
How?
So 30 years of friendship, and then this man comes along. And
How in God's name did this man become president?
Exactly. That was the birth of his first illegitimate daughter.
Uh-huh.
And then he began another affair that lasted for 15 years with his best friend's wife.
What
his best friend's wife, and they were neighbors.
Okay, I don't like him anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I know. He's
Damn you.
with the neighbor's wife, Carrie Fulton Phillips. That started in August 1905. On February, so earlier that year in 1905, Florence Harding, Flossie, she underwent surgery on her kidneys. She had this horrifying kidney ailment. Have you heard of floating kidney?
Yes. I don't know what it means, but I've heard of
Yeah,
it.
I've heard of it too, and I never Googled it until this story, and it is horrifying.
Does it mean she was like filled with water?
I wish. I didn't even click into the Wikipedia. I just saw like a few sentences, and I'm like, I don't need to know anymore. It's when you stand up and your kidney falls.
I don't know what that means, but that's
like
horrifying.
Your kidney goes from one place and then it falls within your body cavity. It falls on.
It's not like attached to anything.
Again, I didn't click because I'm just like, that's too much for me. I don't want to know like where it's falling and how it feels. So
I'm still 100% in shock that there has not been a movie made about this.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a movie made about it and we're just not aware.
Yeah, there has to be.
Please,
there
you
has
guys.
to be.
BeyondReproachPod@gmail.com.
Yeah,
send us
the name
the
of
movie.
this movie.
Flossie's Follies.
Oh my god. So okay, so she's having this kidney issue, and she's basically he sees an opportunity because his wife is occupied. She's being cared for by her. She had a homeopath who was seeing to her recovery, and at the same time, his best friend's wife. They had just lost their child a year prior. They had a toddler boy that died. So her husband, his best friend, was being hospitalized for depression. So he was away from her, and Harding's wife was away from him. And the two of them were living next door.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. So they began their tryst that lasted 15 years. 15 years. And during this time, the couples, because they were friends, they traveled together to Europe, and these two motherfuckers would be having sex in Europe. I guess they find time, they separate from their spouses to be like fucking in broom closets, basically. And this lasted for 15 years.
Good God.
Yeah. So more than 200 intimate letters, over 900 pages of documents between the two of them were discovered in July 29th.
900 pages?
Yeah, he was a reporter, so he likes to write.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I have quotes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's real good. So in July 29th, 1964, that's when a biographer found these notes.
Okay.
Between the two of them, but the notes were tied up in the Warren family because they didn't want them to come out because they were really, really salacious, really scandalous, like really filthy. So they tied them up in litigation, and they finally the family decided to donate the letters to the Library of Congress, but the agreement was that the letters are sealed for 50 years.
In the 60s.
Yeah, so 2014 is when they came.
Okay.
When we got to read them.
Yay!
Yes. So it's 200 letters in 900 pages, and
what the actual fuck?
Yeah, like it's crazy, and you can. Everyone needs to go to the website. I'll drop it in the show notes. Like front and back, he's writing in the margins. There's pictures that he's sending, and you can zoom in, and it's amazing.
Wow.
It's so good. Wow. So historians are saying that Carey was the love of his life, and that they were together during his term as lieutenant governor in Ohio through his Senate race, and right after he won the nomination for presidency is when things kind of soured. But many of the letters were written on official Senate stationery, so this is like what he's doing in his office.
Oh my god.
Yes. This is taxpayer money. Him writing like dirty fucking letters to his girlfriend.
That's almost like secondary to, like, I don't even care that he's president. I'm just like, what?
And most of it is his letters to her. There's only a few of her correspondence to him, and people speculate that after his sudden death that Flossie just burned everything. Burned all the dick pics and whatnot.
He drew them on Wayhouse stationery.
No, but there was photos back then, and like it's I don't know.
He had like one of those old timey photographers with the black cloak over their head, taking a picture of his dick.
Oh my god, yes, that would be funny if there was like a presidential like dick photographer.
Oh my god, there was like literally they had the thing that would like explode with light.
Yeah, they like set the fuse and so good.
Oh,
so,
the length that men will go to.
Thank you. You don't even know. So this motherfucker was writing in code, and you could see his code.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, he was writing in code.
Because he thought, like, who is Flossie gonna like be like?
Well, he was mailing some of the letters, but he was just giving her other letters. So he would write Dear Carey or Dear Sis for the letters that he was mailing. So if someone got it, they wouldn't know like who it was for.
Dear Sis. Suck my dick.
Oh God! Somebody alert the authorities. Yeah, I mean it's so crazy. Like he would write a letter to his friend's family with a bunch of like family things that were not sexual in content, just because he was afraid that someone was going to pick up the letter. But then he would slip in a love note like at the end, like. So
thinking they were only going to read
just
part, be like, this is boring.
I think he was. Good. Which is crazy. So Harding, he penned his first note, the first note that the Library of Congress has, to Carey Phillips on the back of his formal portrait.
Shut up.
So this was the first letter that we have is from 1910, and he had a failed governor's race then. So they suspect that he just had like extra.
What state? Ohio.
Ohio.
Okay,
yeah. That he just had extra kind of like campaign.
I love the
flyers.
Ohio thing that's going through this.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, the whole 2 episodes
yes.
done so far.
Our canon.
New rule: every single episode has to revolve around Ohio in some way.
I'm into it. So but I'm going to drop a picture in the show notes of this picture. It's a good picture. It's a very good picture.
I mean, I partially want to be his sis.
Zaddy?
Yeah, yes. but also what a fucking POS.
Oh yes. He's a man of paradoxes.
Yeah, because I'm having a hard time deciding how I feel.
Yeah, I went through a roller coaster of emotions.
I can't imagine researching
with
this.
every character. It's like there's these like peaks and valleys. Because like, oh, I love her. Oh no, you're still with him.
Damn.
Okay. But I love you. But yeah.
Do you think that he actually loved Flossie, or do you think he was just using her for like advancement? Because some men, I mean, I don't know.
I think that it's hard to tell. I think that he respected her, and I think that they both were getting something out of it. Like, she liked to be in the political spotlight, and she was really good at, like, entertaining and good at just managing his image. And, like, she liked being in the spotlight as well. So I think they both were kind of using each other. Like, she saw a pretty face and saw something that she could kind of mold into a president.
Sure, yeah.
And get herself to the White House. She was super feminist. Like, she was the first one to ride on a plane. Like, she had these meetings of educated women. She was the first first lady to have an integrated crowd of women, like black women.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
like school children with like white women. Like
Wow.
I could do a whole segment just on how like revolutionary she was, like in the 20s. Phenomenal.
Okay,
like,
fuck him. I like her.
Yeah, no one knows this. I didn't know this.
I've never heard, even remote, like, teeny corner of the story. I had
crazy.
no clue.
Yeah, so he wrote his first note on his picture on the back of it. He wrote, like, down the sides and, like, around and around, because he was just a man of many words, as you
Was this, like, something, like a postcard or something that they had printed, or this isn't, like, the original painting?
No, it's something that was printed.
Okay.
It was that kind of black and yellowed, sort of black and white
sepia.
photo. Yeah, sepia, exactly. So it's rumored that this was probably just a campaign thing that he had lying around.
Okay.
So he's just writing. It's like sexy scrap paper for him, basically.
I love sexy scrap paper.
Right? So the first letter, again, comes 5 years into their 15-long-year affair. It's on December 24th, 1910, so Christmas Eve. He's thinking about her.
Uh-huh.
My darling, there are no words at my command sufficient to say the full extent of my love for you. A mad, tender, devoted, ardent, eager, passion, wild, jealous, hungry love.
Good golly.
It flames the fire and consumes. It racks in the tortures of aching hunger and glows in bliss ineffable. Bliss only you can give.
Oh.
I love you more than all the world and have no hope of reward on earth or hereafter so precious as that in your dear arms, in your thrilling lips, in your matchless breast, in your incomparable embrace. In your thrilling lips, correct, yes. Yes.
My goodness.
This is on a government website that we all have access to.
Poor Flossie.
Yeah.
Oh.
And this is the beginning.
What was her name? The slut?
Carrie. Oh, God. Actually, she was friends. I mean, they were neighbors and they traveled together, but yeah.
Fuck her.
Yeah.
I mean, but also it's not her fault.
It's not her.
She's not the one that deserves shame.
Yeah.
Good golly.
Yeah, so in the fall of the year after that, this is fall of 1911, Carrie left her husband behind in Marion and she traveled with her daughter to Berlin. They did a lot of European travel, and this is when she fell in love with Germany.
Germany in the 20s was like legit.
Yeah,
like
the place to be.
that's
And
if
she was
I
in
could go back
Berlin
in time,
too.
Berlin
Yeah.
was a cool fucking place in
Yeah.
the 20s.
Yeah, she was a very modern woman. Even though I know you hate her, but you shouldn't.
Oh, this is the mistress.
This is the mistress.
Oh,
yeah, this is
I'm
not
thinking
Flossie.
Flossie. Okay.
No,
Oh.
Flossie's still in Ohio.
Okay, I still hate her, but Berlin was cool, so
Yeah,
we
so
have common ground.
this was the start of his mistress becoming like a Germanophile. Is that a word?
Sure, why
Okay,
not? Yeah.
I wrote that, but now I'm seeing there's a little like squiggly red. Like that's not a word.
No, but I'll accept it.
Okay, so she returns around Christmas and spends New Year's Eve with her beau in Montreal, where they made love at the stroke of midnight, apparently. And this is,
off.
I'm telling you this just because Harding keeps, like, he always brings this up in his notes to her. Like, remember that time, like, on New Year's Eve, the stroke of midnight?
I put my penis in your vagina.
Yeah, so yes, exactly. But he says it more poetically.
Sure,
in, like,
well,
you
yeah.
know, 900 words. January 28th, 1912, he writes, I love your poise of perfect thighs when they hold me in paradise. I love the rose your garden grows. Love seashell pink that over it glows. I love to suck your breath away. I love to cling there long to stay. I love you garbled but naked more. Love your beauty to thus adore. Love you when you open eyes, in mouth and arms, and cradling thighs. Yeah, I'm like sweating, just
God.
I need a fan.
This is
because
a president saying these things. This is amazing.
Right? We need to stop this podcast and start a movie. Just to make a movie.
Fuck Beyond Reproach.
I'm gonna be Flossie.
You guys, I'm sorry, but the
material.
next 17 episodes are just going to be about Flossie.
It was so hard. What?
I have...
Are you gonna say what I think Floss flew?
Flossy flu. Did I tell you about this already? Okay, so I had a friend. I had a friend in
I'm
college.
like, I wanted to bring it up, but I'm like,
It's so funny that you remember that.
Yeah.
I had a friend in college
It was
who her mother used to call their vagina a flossy flu. And I don't know why, because that's a fucking weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But I love
It's
the
so
idea
good.
of this woman's name being Flossie.
Yeah. That was immediately when I saw that nickname. I'm just like, oh wow.
I love that
So
you
this
remember
is-
that. That was so long ago that I told you that.
But it's so good.
Yeah.
It's a good one. And I want to say I've said it before. So after you gave me a word to use regularly. So, okay. This is a year later, January 2nd. Oh god, I love it. I stopped play to have sandwiches and crack a bottle of wine so I could dwell with my thoughts. You can guess where they centered. On New Year's beginning, a year before, when the bell rang the chorus while our hearts sang the rapture without words, and we greeted the new year from the hallowed heights of heaven. When I got home, I was too tired to sleep, but rested, and you were summoned in finally. And you came.
Yeah, she
A
did.
vision vividly plain, a goddess in human form, and a perfect form, clad only in flowing hair, and you were joyously received, and Jerry came and insisted on staying a while.
Who the fuck is Jerry?
We all retrospected in the happiness of a Sunday in Richmond. Jerry is his penis.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's part of the code, yes.
Are you fucking
Jerry
kidding
is his
me?
penis. Mrs. Powderson is her vagina.
Mrs. Powderson?
Powderson, and together they are the Powdersons. I wish I was
Shut
making this
the
shit up.
fuck
I wish I was
up.
making this up. This is why I couldn't edit this story. I'm
What?
just like, I need every detail. Yes.
What the actual fuck?
The Powdersons were them as a unit. Yes. 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 Correct.
I'm going to I am
Just,
literally...
I'm glad you're on the floor so you didn't throw yourself upon said floor.
I'm this close. I am about to pass away. I am going to die.
You got me
before-
again. I almost spat liquor into my laptop. How dare you?
How dare you? How dare Mrs. Patterson? What's her name?
Mrs. Powderson is
Powderson.
her
What
vagina.
a strange name, too.
Yeah.
Is it powdery? What?
It's like P-O-U-T? Pout?
Powderson.
Powderson. They're the Powdersons.
I just don't understand.
No one does. But yeah, I like that you said, like, who's Jerry? I thought you were going to miss that. But yeah, Jerry is his cock. His penis. His peen, if you will. There's a lot about Jerry in here. Jerry.
If only Trump was smart enough to write letters.
To know how to read and write.
Yeah, I mean, if Trump could read and write, there would be so many stories about
But this
golden
man is
showers
like
in Russia.
He's
and
like a poet. Like, he
Yeah,
fancies
which-
himself like a poet.
a poet who names his fucking penis
I know.
Jerry.
You know, not
Jerry.
Not all poets are like.
Not like Francois.
I know, right? Yeah, you're right. Jerry's like.
Bounaveria.
Yeah. Yeah, Jerry sounds like a man who just like works with his hands. His fingernails are dirty.
Dale.
Ooh, Dale sounds clean. Jerry sounds like a mess.
Dale works at a truck stop.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry to all the Dales listening. And Jerry's.
So in this same letter, this is a theme in a lot of his letters. He gets very self-conscious. So he said, "I've been thinking a lot about those letters you have. I think you should have a fire. Chuck them. Do, you must. If there's one impassioned one that appeals to you, keep it. But please chuck the extras, the extra pictures, letters, and verses. They are too inflammable to keep."
But she kept them.
She kept them.
But he didn't keep his.
Yeah. So on January 5th, so this is a year later, 1913, he writes, "Didn't go to church today. It cost too much last Sunday. So I got up, had
Just
a look."
fucking put less in the plate. Like,
See,
sorry.
in my mind, how I read that is like the disconnect between like what he was doing,
Okay,
like
sure,
cost
yeah,
too
he
much.
probably meant, there was probably more.
Yeah.
Especially if he's a poet. He has
Yeah.
the soul of a poet, so he's
feeling guilty in church.
He wasn't talking about money.
Yeah. That's
See, I'm like, motherfucker, put less in the plate. Don't put anything in the fucking plate, because what are they going to build a new roof?
put some coupons in there like Homer. So, okay, I'm going to start at the beginning. Didn't go to church today. It cost too much last Sunday. So I got up, had a luxurious bath, and donned my bathrobe in which to breakfast. 3 weeks ago, the robe touched and covered your beautiful form, and it made it hallowed to me. I wanted contact with it, to make me seem nearer to you, and I wanted to sit before the fire afterwards in freedom of dress and dream of you and of loving you intimately until I couldn't read what he said here. There was some word that I just couldn't make
So
out.
it's only in his handwriting. There's no like
Some of them are transcribed, but some of them, there's so much juicy content.
I'm so glad that we don't tell each other what the story's going to be, because this is insane.
Oh yes, this is very insane. I like to dream in loose flowing garb because I can dream more intently. And you did, and I did, to alarming release. I called your name aloud thrice, begging you to come, and a voice from upstairs responded, wanting to know what I wanted. I was alarmed and sobered. Do you understand what just happened?
No, I'm confused.
Okay, so...
Have I had too many rosés?
So basically, he's in his bathrobe that she wore 3 weeks ago. He's feeling very comfortable. It's loose. He's thinking about her, and he has...
An erection?
He has an alarming release.
Wait!
I called your name aloud thrice, begging you to come, and a voice from upstairs responded, wanting to know what I wanted, and I was alarmed and sobered. So he's basically having it, he jacked off, or spontaneously came and yelled her name 3 times, and I'm guessing Flossie was like...
Where the fuck was Flossie? She's cleaning the stove.
No, he says a voice from upstairs responded, wanting to know what I wanted. I was alarmed and sobered.
Poor Flossie.
Yeah.
Ew, also.
Exactly. Yeah. Side note, ew.
Yes. As well as, ew. But, poor Flossie.
I know.
Whatever, she got hers. She was like the fucking president.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
I think she knew, just seeing his eyebrows and just seeing his way in the world, like, she kind of probably knew what the deal was.
I guess this was in an era where it was like they didn't have scandals yet, so she wasn't worried about
she found out in 1911 about the affair with her best friend.
Which is so fucked.
I know.
Like,
yeah. And she thought about divorcing him, but then,
But she knew she was riding his coattails to the fucking
Exactly.
presidency, because she was going to be president someday.
She kind of, like, made her peace with it.
I mean, we always talk about, like, the first female president, but there have been many.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, thank you. Hashtag preach. So, on September 15th, 1913, he writes, honestly, I hurt with the insatiate longing until I feel that there will never be any relief until I take a long, deep draught on your lips and then bury my face on your pillowing breasts. Oh, Carrie, I want the solace you can only give. It is awful to hunger so and be so wholly denied. Wouldn't you like to get sopping wet out on Superior?
Gasp!
Wouldn't you like to get sopping wet out on Superior, not the lake? For the joy of fevered fondling and melting kisses, wouldn't you like to make the suspected occupant of the next room jealous of the joys he could not know, as we did in the morning communion at Richmond? Oh, Carrie mine, I can see I have yielded and written myself into wild desire. I could beg, and Jerry came, and will not go.
Fuck Jerry.
He says he loves you, that you are the only
Jerry loves her.
Love worthwhile in all this world. I must tell you so, and a score or more of other fun things he suggests, but I spare you. You must not be annoyed. He is so utterly devoted.
I'm annoyed, motherfucker.
That he exists only to give you all. I fear you would find a fierce enthusiast today.
I just can't. I mean, part of me is sad that people don't write love letters anymore.
Yeah.
Because they're sending texts that are like BRB, LMFAO.
You up.
Go on.
Okay, March 12th, 1915, he writes, Jerry, you recall Jerry, whose cards I once sent you to Europe, came in while I was pondering your notes in glad reflection, and we talked about it. He was strongly interested and elated and clung to the discussion. He told me to say that you're the best and darlingest in the world, and if he could have but one wish, it would be to be held in your darling embrace and be thrilled by your pink lips that convey the surpassing rapture of human touch and the unspeakable joy of love's surpassing embrace. I cordially agree with all that he said. Perhaps it is not important, maybe it's not even interesting, but he is devoted exclusively for you.
Oh my god. So he's talking about Mrs. Featherbottom?
Mrs. Powderson.
Okay.
It's so dirty.
But it's like in the most delicious way possible.
Yeah, it's so flowery. The ways that he describes like her pussy. It's just, I love it. I love it. It's so good. And it's like, wow, this man was president and now. Yeah, okay, so that was...
Heavens to Betsy, one might say.
That was in 1915. So their relationship started to flounder when Carrie developed a passion for all things German. She moved to Berlin, and there she may or may not have become a spy. Because this is during World War
A German
I.
spy?
Yeah. This is
Wow.
during...
World War One.
Exactly. World War One. So these next messages are from like wartime. Things are getting a little bit too contentious because she's basically being so pro-Germany, it's making him uncomfortable. So February 16th, 1917, I have all along recognized your intense partisanship and sympathy for and devotion to Germany. I have respected it because you are you, and most of the cutting things said I have been able to pass by. I do not know whether I shall vote for war. I may not be called upon to so vote, but when I do vote for it, I shall do it with such conviction that I enlist to fight as I vote. Perhaps the assertion of American rights will lead, as you suggest, to our ultimate subjugation. Very well, if the Kaiser can conquer the world, then I will swear my allegiance to him. He will deserve it. Meanwhile, we may test popular government of a polyglot people. We are testing it now without war. I wonder if it'll stand the strain.
So this is when he's still a senator.
And she's basically saying, like, you need to not vote for war with Germany.
Okay.
And if you do, like, I'm going to be pissed. And he's like, I'm not going to do it.
Because he is voting with his Jerry. That's
Again, we don't have her side. We don't know what she was really saying, but it sounds like she was really pushing him to be soft on Germany, basically. It's unclear if she's really a spy. She's very much pro-German. But she seems to be just like a modern woman who has strong opinions, has worldly opinions because she's traveled to Europe and she's currently living in Berlin. So when Harding supported President Wilson's aggressive response to the sinking of the Lusitania, Carrie was pissed, like really pissed.
But the fucking Lusitania, like...
Yeah. But she was still pissed because she was that pro-German. She was so pro-German that she was pro-German in World War II. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so she's trash. Yeah. She threatened to reveal their affair if he voted for war with Germany, but she didn't go through with it.
He did vote for war? Or do we not know?
He did, but she didn't go through with it.
Okay.
So she was such a harsh critic of German policy in the U.S. that she attracted the attention of the FBI.
And he still fucking became president after the shit. Like, I just don't understand.
So they found this out before he was president, and they chose to ignore it.
What the fuck were newspaper editors doing in the 20s? Like,
it's
get
so
off
crazy.
your fucking ass and write a goddamn story.
Yeah, I know. August 20th, 1918. I wish I could take you to Mount Jerry. Wonderful spot.
Mount Jerry.
Not
Stupendous Peen Mountain.
Exactly. Wonderful spot. Not in the...
Wonderful spot.
Not in the geographies, but a heavenly place.
Fuck off.
And I have seen... I've seen some passing views there and reveled in them. Gee, how I wish you might be along. You could be such a dandy companion. It would be adorable to have you. I am sure I would be sweetly content. You could make me so. August of the following year, this is when things get a little spicy. I know.
This is when things get spicy?
I did not know the present embarrassment. I only know you say you must have 10,000 by next March. I understood there were immediate needs in spite of difficulty involved, which you clearly do not understand. I offer to secure one half at once. I will revise and see the second half is in your hands by next March. It involves sacrifice that I would not make for anybody else in the world. I ask a valueless thing to you in return. On that I must insist. I do not wish to be penalized for the tribute I have paid you all these years. I use I use the word tribute in the highest and most beautiful sense. I like the papers. For your sake as well as my own, I'll make the sacrifice for them. He wants his letters to be burned. And she wants her money. She's like, run me my coin.
She's
bitch.
like, I didn't burn that shit for a reason, motherfucker.
Exactly! Why would I burn them?
You need to quit your job.
Okay.
You need to write
Go on.
a novel.
I'm liking where your head's at.
You need to basically like just copy and paste the entire fucking communique.
That would be such a fun novel. Oh.
And like put in little bits of historical fact, turn it into a book, and then send said book to a fucking Hollywood executive.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, we will just fucking live off the fucking coin.
Yeah, this story is so crazy. So basically after this is their 14th year, she's kind of like had enough. She gets this, wants to be his wife.
What about Flossie?
Yeah. So Warren wasn't
That's the
really...
name of the book.
And what about Flossie? Yeah, Harding just basically was not about that life. He had no passion for his wife, clearly. He did have a passion for politics. So Carrie, she had had enough, and she was not taking no for an answer. She hung the threat of exposure over his head. And, basically if she was going to shut up, he was going to have to put up. So there's one more that I will read. So this is the following year. This is the year that their relationship ends, and this is February 2nd, 1920. This was such a long letter, and I just took a snippet.
Yes.
It was
I love
crazy.
a good snippet.
It was crazy.
Especially when it comes to a Jerry.
There's no Jerry in this one.
Oh, damn.
She's over Jerry at this point. She's like, I don't want to fucking hear about Jerry.
Yeah, she's traded Jerry for Germany.
Yeah, and for her Benjamin. Like,
she's like enough of Jerry. I want Benjamins in Germany. Yeah. Benjamins and Deutschmarks.
Deutschmarks, exactly. So he writes, your proposal to destroy me, and yourself in doing so, you only will add to the ill we have already done. It doesn't seem like you to think of such a fatal course. I can't believe your purpose is to destroy me for paying the tribute so freely uttered and so often shown. Now to specifics. I can't secure you the larger competence you have frequently mentioned. No use to talk about it. I can pay with life or reputation, but I can't command such a sum. To avoid disgrace in the public eye, to escape ruin in the eyes of those who have trusted me in public life, where I have never betrayed, I will, if you demand it, as price, retire at the end of my term and never come back to Marion, Ohio to reside. I'll pay this price to save my own disgrace and your own self-destruction to destroy me. That is one proposal, complete, final, and covers all.
Wow.
So his...
Things got weird.
Yeah,
Things got real weird between them.
I mean, there were so many that I could have shown like a gradient of progression.
Of course,
but
well, which is why you need to write this book.
Yeah, in the interest of... There's just so much. Again, 900 pages. Like, it's
That's insane.
crazy. It's so crazy. So, yeah, the full letter of this is so long. He basically claims that he's broke and that he can't pay her, and the best he could do is finish his fucking term. Like, why? It's no punishment.
As senator in Ohio.
And not go back to their hometown. Like, that's his way of paying her. And it's like, bitch, I want money. Like, that's not even a punishment. You're going to finish your term, and you're not... He was basically telling her, like, don't say a word. I'll finish my term, and I'll just, like, go off and live on a farm, basically. But not in Marion, Ohio, because that's where she's from.
But she's not living there.
I
She's
know,
in fucking
yeah.
Germany.
Exactly.
She was in Berlin this whole time?
She's been going back and forth.
But Berlin specifically.
Yeah, specifically
in Germany.
Berlin.
Okay.
Yes. So during the presidential, so this is the year of the presidential election that she's, this letter.
So that's why she's fucking like getting
Yeah.
some fucking Benjamins
So,
and or Deutschmarks.
So she blackmailed Harding and ended up with a lump sum of $25,000 and a $5,000 a month stipend as long as Harding was in politics.
Which is an insane amount of money back then.
So in this letter that I cut it out, but he was trying to offer her $5,000 a year.
Did you happen to do like the math as far as
like what
inflation?
This money means? She was basically being paid like $250,000. And then plus the $5,000.
I mean,
yeah.
For like hanging out with Jerry all those years, I guess that's not that bad.
But he was trying to offer her in this letter that I like annotated $5,000 a year in like no lump sum. He said he didn't have the money but she went around him and went to the RNC. So she actually made history because she's the only woman known to have successfully blackmailed a major U.S. political party.
Successfully. So they were like, okay, here's the fucking
they paid
coin.
her. And they sent her and her husband to the Far East during the election. They went to Japan.
So they were
for
still
months.
married.
Yeah, they were still married. So she got paid. She got a huge payday. So I'm so glad she didn't burn letters because,
Yeah, I mean...
she got all the money.
She knew what the fuck
all
she was
expense paid
Well, maybe
trip
she didn't initially, but like...
Japan until the election was over. So they just like wanted her away. This is actually not the end of the story.
Yeah, I mean, don't...
Yeah.
I need to know more.
I feel so bad. Okay.
No, I need to know more.
This man is just... Again, his favorite pastime is putting his dick into other women. So there's a long list
So there's
of, like,
other women
jump-offs.
besides
Yes.
Flossie and Mrs. Featherbottom.
Exactly. Yes. Mrs. Powderson. Put some respect on her name. She got fucking paid by the RNC all the money. Mm-hmm. So do you know what a jump-off is? I'm going to run through his list of jump-offs.
No.
Okay.
Explain to me.
Okay. I just wonder what white people did before Urban Dictionary. Because this is like an urban term.
I
That's just been
literally
around
just had
forever
to look up
and ever.
BDE the other day.
I don't know what
Which
that
apparently
is.
stands for Big Dick Energy.
Wait, what does that even mean?
It doesn't literally mean you have a big dick. It means
just
like you act like
you're
you have
like
a
a
big
dick.
dick. No,
You're
it kind of
pretending.
means you're like just... It doesn't even mean cocky.
Who's using this word?
Apparently it's a thing.
What?
It's a big thing.
Damn!
But apparently it doesn't even really
Big
mean
dick?
cocky.
Is it positive?
It's a positive thing.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean cocky, it means confident. It means
Shit!
It means sort of like quiet confidence.
Oh, so your big dick just exudes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like there's also SME is small dick energy.
Oh, no!
And like if you are a cocky motherfucker, generally it means like you have a small dick, so you're like
energy.
overcompensating.
Oh.
So like
So if
quiet
you're
confidence is like you have a big dick, so you don't have to care about how other people think about you because you're like, I have a big dick, so fuck you. I'm sorry.
I'm like, where was I?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Why did I even start talking about this?
We started talking about... I asked you if you knew what a jump-off was.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Thank you, Internet. Thank you,
Amazing.
Urban Dictionary. So tell me about a jump-off, because...
So the top result for jump-off comes from a gentleman, I'm assuming, named Anonymous. A girl used strictly for sex, nothing else, to a hassle-free fuck. And his example is, you don't gotta remember your jump-off's birthday. Which I think is really...
I don't like that.
I know, it's terrible.
As a gay man, I'm not... I should be, like...
As a woman, I'm not okay with it, but it fits. I'm gonna go through just briefly the list of
This story
people.
is so...
I know. It's a lot.
But it is literally an emotional roller coaster. I am up
yes.
and down and all around, motherfucker.
Same.
Like loop-de-loops and shit.
Yeah. So there was a minor fling with a woman named Augusta Cole, whom Harding impregnated and then forced to have an abortion. There's a woman named Rosa Hoyle who gave birth to Harding's first illegitimate son. There was an affair with a Washington Post employee known as Miss Alcott and two former chorus girls, Maisie Haywood and Blossom Jones. There was an affair with Grace Miller Cross of his Senate staff, his secretary. This secretary, she successfully blackmailed him in return for his sappy letters.
So he's not even just writing letters to Mrs. Featherbottom.
He's writing letters to all of them. Yeah. This is what he does. So, yeah, his secretary blackmailed him successfully. There's a string of New York women. He was allegedly rumored to have something with the first Miss America. Sound familiar?
Oh my god.
Yeah. His dick is out there. Has been out there. So, if the affair with his wife's bestie is 1, the affair with the busty neighbor is 2, the affair with the staffer is 3, the most infamous... The ones I went through aren't even the most infamous. The most infamous is a teen.
And this is before the presidency?
This is before and during. His fourth mistress was the most infamous, a beautiful blonde named Nan Britton. She was a campaign volunteer with Harding. Yeah, she was from Marion as well, and her father was friends with him, and she had like such an intense schoolgirl crush on him. So she, instead of having pictures of artists and like musicians of the time, she had pictures of Harding, and she was a campaign volunteer when she was in high school. He actually had a conversation with her and told her that someday you're going to meet a man your age. So flash forward, she graduates high school. 2 years later, she moves to New York. So she's 20 at the time now, and he gets her a job with a newspaper, and they begin their fling. So he was 51 and she was 20 at the time of their fling. Harding would take Britton into his office and let her sit on his lap. And this is when I dry heaved a bit. She apparently was driving him crazy with a frenzy of desire by coyly refusing to sleep with him. Even though she clearly wanted to, she was just so immature. Like the first time that they slept together, they were sleeping next to each other in a train bed, and she was fully clothed, and they were kissing, and he touched her leg. The next morning, she woke up thinking she might be pregnant, and she started freaking out because she was that immature at 20 that she thought, like, people have sex by laying down in bed and kissing and touching your leg over your sleep dress. Exactly. So she was not ready for sex with that sort of thinking. But they finally do have sex, and she details it in a tell-all book that she wrote in 1927 after his death.
Okay.
It's a book called The President's Daughter. So it's the first presidential sex novel in which she describes losing her
fucking book.
She describes losing her virginity in intimate detail. Quote, "I remember so well, I wore a pink linen dress which was rather short and enhanced the little girl look," Britton wrote, because Harding liked that sort of thing. So he registers the hotel under a false name. He and Britton ride the elevator up in silence. According to Britton's book, the NYPD Vice Squad burst down the door, like, literally just as they finished having sex, because the person at the desk called the cops, because here's a 50-year-old man with this little girl in a baby doll dress who looks like she's underage riding up. They just thought it was, prostitution. So the cops begin to arrest the couple, and it wasn't until Harding, showed his ID that they apologized. Apparently, quote, according to Britton, upon seeing the name, they became calm immediately. Not only calm, but strangely respectful. Withdrawing very soon, we completed our dressing.
Oh, holy night.
So in the book, Britton described the classy locations, classy in air quotes, Harding secured for their encounters. From Harding's Senate office couch, which is where the book is called The President's Daughter. The baby was conceived on said couch in his office in the Senate. To one particularly romantic spot in the White House hat closet. Apparently the Secret Service was looking out for him and would knock on the door when Flossie was around.
Flossie flew.
Yeah. So when she became pregnant, he, of course, asked her to get an abortion. She refused. Harding now, kind of knowing from his previous mistakes, he agrees to pay her money, and he starts secretly paying her a weekly amount of $150 child support, hand-delivered by the Secret Service.
This story...
For the daughter he never met until... he died without meeting her, because he died suddenly.
This story is insane.
Yeah. So Harding promised to support their daughter, but after his sudden death in 1923, his wife, Flossie, was like, fuck that shit. I'm not paying you a goddamn penny. So that's why she writes the book, only to earn money to support her daughter and champion the rights of illegitimate children anywhere. So she writes the book, and she's unable, of course, to find a publisher because it's salacious, the content. So she starts a fund, Elizabeth Ann Guild, an organization that Britton found to take up the cause of children born out of wedlock. So she's able to publish the book, but prior to the release, the NYPD Vice team comes back. They seize her books, seize her printing materials, her plates. They end up giving it back to her, but it starts a whole campaign of intimidation.
Is this book, can you...
Oh yeah, you can get it now.
Okay.
Yeah. A congressman decides to come after her too. He introduced a bill to the House of Representatives attempting to ban the sale of the book, stating that the work was, quote, a blast from hell. The measure failed, so they tried again. While the contents of the books were never challenged in court by members of the Harding family, because they were true, People came from her all sides, and they called her all sorts of things because, she's a woman and she's saying things about a president. And she eventually had to leave town. There we go. The book was so salacious when it came out. It was suppressed as obscene. It had to be sold in those shameful brown bags that you sell porn. Thankfully, in 1965, the discovery of the letters sort of gave her more ammunition. But she dies. Nan Britton dies in 1991. According to her grandson, she was still very much in love with him until the day that she died. In her heart, she knew the truth, so she didn't really care. But DNA testing in 2015 proved that he was the father of her daughter.
Jesus Christ, and wait, why is this still not talked
Yeah,
about?
it's crazy. So that's the end of my story. I mean, there's the final note. There was kind of a nasty rumor that I kept seeing on the internet in different places that because Harding died just quickly, he had a heart attack or a stroke, they weren't sure what happened. There are rumors that Flossie poisoned him. And she would not be without cause.
Yeah.
So, there's rumors that she poisoned him, but who knows? They say it was a heart attack. They say that he had congenital heart failure. Mm-hmm. It was just a long-term thing, and his heart just gave out. But his last words were, he was on this comeback tour because some things in his administration, scandalous things, started to come out, and the press was kind of slightly slipping against him. So he did this long trip throughout the West. And his health had been kind of bad. He had been really tired. But his wife is reading him a newspaper. And his last words were, "That's good. Go on. Read some more." And he just dies.
Oh my God.
His wife had been reading him an article about himself from the Saturday Evening Post.
Oh.
The end.
The end.
Oh,
my God.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you like us, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Just search Beyond Reproach or Beyond Reproach Pod. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks!